Hello? Well, actually, I could use some tissue. Just because Thank you. Gracias. All right. I guess we should do prostrations, those of you who want to. Om Namo Manjushriye, Namo Susriye, Namo Uttamasriye Soha. Om Namo Manjushriye, Namo Susriye, Namo Uttamasriye Soha. Om Namo Manjushriye, Namo Susriye, Namo Uttamasriye Soha. All right, so we'll start out reading our prayers on page somebody's supposed to shout out the page here. This is around 50, isn't it? Oh, is it really? Okay. 34. That's fine. Yeah. Okay. All right, so we've discussed all these mantras, all of these prayers, except the seven-limb prayer a little bit. Let me go over that one real quick. This is not an exhaustive one, explanation, but it's just a simple one. Works like my mind. Reverently I prostrate with my body, speech, and mind. By the way, every one of these prayers are like planting seeds in our mind. So we need to think of, we're like, I don't know about you, but I've got to aerate and plant here pretty quick. It's time, past time. So we're planting seeds when we say these prayers, if we say them with the right motivation and with mindfulness. And so every one of these prayers has deep meaning. If we understand it, it can help our mind. So reverently I prostrate with my body, speech, and mind. So that's like paying homage to, what we're prostrating to are the three jewels. So reverently I prostrate with my body, speech, and mind. So what do you think? Paying homage or prostrating. What do you think that's an antidote to? Pardon?
Pride. Pride.
Spell it.
Pride.
Pride, sorry. I couldn't hear. I know I'm ready for hearing aids, just haven't done it yet. The high frequencies are going. Yeah, so arrogance, pride. There's no way to learn anything if our mind if we think we got all the answers. So we need to empty out our mind of arrogance and pride. So this is a good reminder. Reverently, I prostrate, Prostrations can be mental frustrations, or just put the hands at the heart. A lot of people will put their hands at the heart, when they say these prayers. There's just also to connect with the heart. And I present clouds of every type of offering, actual and imagined. Wonder what that could be an antidote to. Anybody? Greed. Attachment. Yeah, being generous. Being generous is an antidote to this miserliness, greedy mind of ours. It's also the karmic cause for being generous is the karmic cause for prosperity. I declare all my negative actions accumulated since beginningless time. So where does that fit in?
Purification.
Yeah. That's like one of the 4-pointed piles. We really need to plug in, we need to be brutally honest with ourselves about our actions, our body, speech, and mind, and we need to declare them. And initially to ourselves, but actually it's quite powerful. The monks and nuns, twice a month, they have, I can't think of the name of this ceremony, but it's like where they declare their negative actions to another person. So, that's why when I'm not Catholic, but that's why I think that could be powerful. To go to confession, and say something to somebody else who's hopefully not judging you, and hopefully doesn't recognize your voice. To be very powerful to do that. Rejoice in the merit of all holy and ordinary beings. What is rejoicing an antidote to?
Negative mind.
Well, yeah, but what? Specifically what? Pardon? Jealousy. Remember we talked about how, like when somebody steals your spouse, your significant other, and you rejoice. I hope that he or she enjoys them and has a great life with them. You can imagine otherwise you just jealousy could just eat your heart out. So rejoicing is a great way. It's a great antidote to jealousy, but it's also an easy way to create positive karma. Bodhisattvas, these spiritual warriors, their main practice is rejoicing. They come in here and they go, oh, this is so beautiful. Well, and so they get the positive karma of that. They're probably driving down the road going, gosh, I'm so happy other people are driving safely and the roads are nice and look at this nice car I'm driving and it's running and I wonder where all this gas came from and maybe one day we'll be driving electric cars. But in other words, rejoicing puts the mind in a positive way, and so rejoicing in the positive actions of others is a powerful way to uplift our mind. And okay, and then asking the teachers, please remain until the end of cyclic existence. Well, cyclic existence is samsara. That's the cycle of uncontrolled causation that we find ourselves in now, where we suffer, and we suffer, and we suffer again, and then we suffer from lifetime to lifetime, and it just keeps going on and on and on because we keep doing the same things again and again, and it doesn't seem to change anything. So we want our teachers, these qualified teachers, to please remain until the end of cyclic existence, which is endless, by the way, and turn the wheel of Dharma. That means teach living beings. So we're creating the causes to receive the teachings by requesting the teachings. And then I dedicate my own merits and those of all others to the great enlightenment. So that's kind of a Mahayana motive. Like, what does merit mean, by the way? Anybody want to take a stab at merit? Sounds like the Boy Scouts, the merit badges. Very similar. You do something positive, you plant, yeah.
Doing something positive, but from the complete intention of it being for the welfare of another sentient being, and not from the intention of, well, if I do this, I get a merit badge.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's purely wanting to have other sentient beings benefit from your action.
That would be a pure action. But unfortunately, since none of us are 100% selfless, we're always going to be motivated by self-interest to some degree or another until we reach a very high state. Huh?
I'll take the merit.
Yeah, I'll take the merit. I'll take what I can get. You know, I may not get 100. I'll take a 75. Excuse me. So anyway, we dedicate the positive potential, all these seeds that we've created by doing these prayers, all the positive potential, because this is one of the kind of the cool things about the Mahayana perspective is that because we're not just dedicating it to our own happiness, but we're dedicating it to the happiness of universal living beings who are numberless, the amount of karma we get for that is phenomenal. It's phenomenal. That's why it is possible to get enlightened. But that's why it's so important to have this altruistic intention to become enlightened called bodhicitta as our motivation for practice, because every little thing that we do that's positive is multiplied bazillions of times because it's dedicated to all beings. Very cool. So let's do the taking refuge and four measurables and all the way down to the mandala. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my practice of giving and other perfections, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my practice of giving and other perfections, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my practice of giving and other perfections, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. Now, before we go anywhere, what thoughts should come to mind before we say these prayers, this refuge in bodhicitta? There's actually three. The first one is dread of, like, we don't have a guide, if we don't do something with our mind and straighten it up, we're gonna have a hard life, and then we're gonna have an even harder death. It's gonna be really frightening. And so because we have a mind that's out of control, and we need guides, the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. The first thing we need is dread, or sometimes the term is fear. That's okay. I'm okay with fear. Fear of living my life out with a mind that's out of control 99% of the time. Always motivated by what me, I want. The second one is confidence. Confidence in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha to actually be able to guide us. That is not something that many of us, particularly newbies, would not expect you to have any confidence unless you'd really been practicing and had tasted the benefits of it yourself. Then confidence, I've been doing this for a long time, and my confidence is still building, because I do see when I get slack, I suffer more than when I practice, when I put my effort out. So confidence is really based on your experience. And then the last is compassion for all living beings, because this is this is a Mahayana practice. So we're doing this in order to benefit all living beings. All right? So that's compassion for all beings. So we got dread, we got confidence, we have compassion. That's why we go for refuge. Now the four measurables. May all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all sentient beings be inseparable from the happiness that is free from suffering. And may all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from attachment for friends and hatred for enemies. Reverently, I prostrate with my body, speech, and mind. I present clouds of every type of offering, actual and imagined. Declare all my negative actions accumulated since beginningless time, and rejoice in the merit of all holy and ordinary beings. Please remain until the end of cyclic existence. Turn the wheel of Dharma for living beings. I dedicate my own merits and those of all others to the great enlightenment. This ground anointed with perfume, strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, 4 continents, the sun and the moon. I imagine this is the Buddha fill and offer it. May all living beings enjoy this pure land. Idam Guru Radha Mandala Kamne Yatayami. Okay. Now if we can sit up and we're going to do a meditation on the 10 non-virtues. Remember, we talked about this last time. So start out by watching the breath, following the exhalation, and then inhalation, and exhalation and inhalation. And each time you breathe out and breathe in, make the middle note 1, and breathe out and breathe in, make the middle note 2. And see if you can get up. See if you can get the 3, but if you can get the 10, that's really good. Then you start over again. But if you get lost, which most of us will, you just bring your mind back and you start all over at 1. And let go of any physical tension. Sit straight in your chair, back straight. Just kind of like checkers, stacked one on the other. Not leaning backward. Excuse me. So we always want to set our motivation for practicing, doing anything virtuous actually. We want to set our motivation to, we want it to be the bodhicitta, or this altruistic intention to become enlightened based on love and compassion. We'd like to have that be the motivation, but it is not, you just can't like snap your finger and sincerely have that be the motivation for your practice. Most of us just want to make it through the day, we just want to be happy. We want our own happiness, we want others to be happy too, but mainly we look after number one, and that's kind of human nature at this point. But it does, with training, the mind can be trained through familiarity to actually dedicate our life completely to others, dedicate our spiritual awakening as Buddhas in order to be able to help others. I mean, that's the goal. That's the real, we wouldn't, most of us would not say that's the purpose of my life, but that is the purpose of a human life, is to develop all of our positive qualities as much as we completely, fully develop them, eliminate all of our faults, and then help other people find their own truth, find their own Buddhahood, Buddha nature, and then help that evolve. That is the purpose of a human life. Yeah, but when we have to get to that point, we have to think, we have to have some sort of equanimity where we don't cling to the friends and feel indifferent toward the strangers and aversion toward the so-called enemies, the people that we dislike. We need to let go of all those labels, and they're impermanent. They don't last forever. They could change. They're changeable. So we try to develop equanimity, and then we remember that self-cherishing selfishness is the devil. Self-cherishing selfishness is the demon that has robbed us of happiness, and all beings of happiness from the beginning of beginningless time until now. It's the cause of all disputes, all wars, all kinds of problems. All problems, in fact, come from that. All negative karma arise out of that misperception where we project a false sense of self and we cling to it, and then all kinds of negativities come out of that. And then cherishing others is the source of all happiness. It's antithetical to self-cherishing, selfishness. And then we imagine exchanging our normal self-cherishing selfishness for the attitude that now, instead of cherishing myself as the one and only, the most important, I'm going to gradually begin to train my mind to cherish others, to truly cherish others. And then we come to the point where we make this kind of, it just sounds ridiculous to even say it, but it's an attitude that we strive to develop, that I'm personally responsible for the happiness of all living beings, from helping everyone, no matter, whoever it is, for establishing everyone in a state of blissful happiness and enlightenment. It is my job alone. And then the next obvious step is, hey, I can't even do that for myself. So I must develop my qualities, eliminate my faults. I must develop perfect wisdom, perfect compassion, perfect loving kindness and skillful means in order to guide others to supreme enlightenment. And to do that, I have to have gotten there myself. I have to develop myself. And to do that, it is impossible without understanding karma completely, up one side and down the other. Like the most important subject in all of Buddhism. They're all important, but this one, a particularly important subject. So we're going to hand out this meditation that I'm going to read some of it. I'm not going to read all of it, but I'm going to go over the 10 non-virtuous actions. And then you can have a copy of this if you don't already have one. Did we hand that out, 10 non-virtuous, last time? I think we did. Or was it the 4 characteristics of karma? All right, well, we'll hand this out. This time we're going to hand out Vajrasattva. Next time we'll hand this out. But it's easy. All right, so the purpose of this meditation is to recognize non-virtuous actions we've created in this and previous lives and to develop the urgent wish to purify these actions. Using the following list of 10 as a guide, review your actions to recall what non-virtuous actions you've created. As you recall specific actions, reflect on the various suffering results that can ripen, then generate the 4 powerful remedies to immediately purify that action. So, just in, this is the basic, as people who call themselves Buddhist, this is the basic practice, is to try to avoid the 10 non-virtuous actions. This is like the basic practice. If we don't do anything else, as much as we can, we try to avoid these, and then as soon as we do something that's damaging to ourselves and others, we purify it. Remember the 4 R's. The first one is refuge. Most negative actions are done, with respect to either the 3 jewels or other sentient beings. So we're taking refuge in the 3 jewels as well as bodhicitta or compassion. So refuge is the first one. The second one is regret. So we go, oh my gosh, I just poisoned myself. We don't go, oh, I'm guilty, I'm such a bad person. No, we just poison ourselves. Karma is like gravity. It doesn't care. We're not being punished. There's no superior being who's punishing us when we do negative things. We're punishing ourselves. We just poison ourselves. And so we feel sincere regret from our heart. I wish I hadn't done that. I wish I hadn't done that. No, not I'm a bad person for having done that. That's not what we're talking about. Talking about sincere regret. And then there's the remedy, which could be, as we said last, Lama Zopa says, doing kind things for others is the greatest remedy of all. But apologizing is part of it. It could be, it could be doing mantras, the 100-syllable mantra of Vajrasattva. It could be making satsangs and statues and writing scripture and reading and studying and teaching. And there's a lot of different ways that we can, that manifest the sincerity of our regret. Or that demonstrate the sincerity of our regret. So that's called the remedy. And then the last one, which is the most important one, is the resolve to not do it again. For how long? As long as you can. As long as you think you can. So not the rest of it, eternity, but it might just be an hour, a minute, a day, or whatever. Or maybe a year, maybe the rest of this life. But you resolve to not as much as possible. So those are the four opponent powers that we apply whenever we do any of these 10 non-virtuous actions. We try to recollect them. So the non-virtuous actions of the body. Recall actions of killing, including taking human life, killing animals and insects. Also recall the motivation for these actions. Was it anger, attachment, or ignorance? I think these actions can cause you to be reborn in a joyless realm. Because remember, in Buddhism, we do talk about past and future lifetimes. And these are not some places that we go. These are places that are created by our own mind. And if we've killed, we literally create the cause to be in hell. So we don't want to do that. And experience much. So think these actions can cause us to be reborn in hell, or experience much illness, a short life, or to live in a war-torn country. These are the karmic consequences of killing, and generate the thought of refuge to the triple gem and wish to lead all beings to their highest enlightenment. And then generate strong regret and a determination not to repeat that kind of action again for as long as you can. Next is recall actions of stealing, taking possessions of others without their permission, borrowing them and keeping them until you feel they now belong to you. Recall the motivation. Think these actions can cause you to be reborn in the realm of hungry ghost. Okay, those are if you read Buddhist texts, that's called the preta. No, the Sanskrit word is preta realm, but these are these craving, kind of like ghosts or beings that the cause for being reborn there is this attitude of stinginess and craving. So if we're born there, we lose our possessions. It also creates the cause in this life for us to have and lose our possessions, or live in a country where your possessions are destroyed. And it then generate the thought of refuge to the triple gem, wish to lead all beings to their highest enlightenment, then generate strong regret and determination not to repeat this kind of action of stealing, taking what's not been freely given. In some achievable amount of time. Next, recall actions of sexual misconduct where we've harmed others through our sexual actions. Think these actions can cause you to be reborn also as a hungry ghost, or have a family or partner who's hostile toward you, or to live in a very muddy place. And then you try to generate the 4 remedies. Refuge, regret, and then the actual remedy, and then the resolve to not do it again. If we have experienced any of these results this life, we can reflect on the actions we must have created in the past and practice these 4 powerful remedies. Recall virtuous actions of the body when you avoided killing, when you refrained from stealing or sexual misconduct. So it's just not all about negativity. It's when we the result of these actions will be the opposite of the result of the non-virtuous actions. Rejoice in these actions and dedicate the merit. So when we say practicing virtue, it's like, for example, we're sitting here and we say, well, I must be practicing. I'm not killing anything, so I must be practicing non-killing. Well, that's not actually the way it works. It's when we're in a situation where we could take a life, but then choose not to. That is the action that's the virtuous action of non-killing. And similarly, when we're in a situation where we could take what hasn't been freely given and we restrain ourselves, that's the virtuous action of non-stealing. Now, of course, there's, when we talk about killing, there's also the virtuous action of saving lives, and the virtuous action of, instead of stealing, of being generous, and so on. But generally speaking, when we talk about the 10 non-virtues, the virtue comes as when we're confronted with the opportunity to do that, and we don't do it, and we restrain ourselves. That's when we're practicing virtue. And by the way, this is, and I'll talk more about this, this has to do with vows, taking vows. If we took the 5 lay vows, say for example, avoid killing, stealing, adultery, lying, and intoxicants. These are just, in Buddhist countries, these are kind of the 5 basic ones that most people try to live by. And if we think about it, just having a vow to not do something, and if we take it seriously, it protects us. Because when the opportunity comes to kill or steal or commit adultery or lie or whatever, I have a vow. It protects us. The vow, we're mindful of our vows, and we bring that mindfulness to that moment, and that vow to that mindfulness of that vow to the moment, and we don't kill. We don't kill. We look for we have this thing at home. I think I told you it's called a bugzooka, and like we go around and find cockroaches and all kinds of spiders and stuff, and we catch them, and then we take them outside. We try not to kill them as much as we can. That's just a simple example, but you get the point. So, and here's the other thing that's cool about taking vows. When you take a vow, let's say you take a vow to avoid the 10 non-virtuous actions, then when you're not doing the action, 24/7 you're creating virtue. This sounds weird, but if you take a vow not to kill, now most people don't have a vow not to kill, right? But if you take a vow not to kill, then you're getting the positive karma of not killing even when you're not in a situation where you could avoid killing. And when you are in a situation where you can avoid killing, even more powerful. But by the same token, if you have a vow to not kill and you kill, it's much heavier negative karma, like that. So very important, if we can, take and try to keep vows. Very important way to protect us from creating negative karma. Then remember so we recall virtuous actions. We talked about that. Non-virtuous actions of speech. Recall actions of lying, deceiving others through speech. Think these actions can cause you to be reborn in the animal realm. And guess what? Never to be believed. And also to live in a very filthy place. And you might go, how in the world do they know that? These are the Buddhist teachings. This is what the Buddha saw, the omniscient one saw, were the consequences in future lifetimes of beings that were deceptive. And you also have the habit to lie. The tendency. Then recall the actions of slander. Like, have you slandered anybody recently? Causing division by the things we say to or about people. Divisive speech. Think these actions can cause you to be reborn in a lower realm, in a joyless realm. I like the word joyless realm. To be separated from loved ones. Slander. I could see how that could cause you to be separated from loved ones. And to live in very extremely high or low places. Recall actions of harsh speech, hurting others through words we use or the tone of voice. Think these actions can cause you to be reborn also in the joyless realm and hear distressing words, or to live in a desert. So that's harsh speech. Recall actions of gossip, meaningless talk which waste our precious rebirth and causes distractions to others. Think these actions cause you to be reborn in the animal realm with undisciplined speech, or to live in a place where the water supply dries up. And also, people won't listen to you because you just babble on and on. Generate the 4 powerful remedies to purify any of these non-virtuous actions of speech. So it's lying, slander, harsh and frivolous speech. Generate thoughts of refuge of the Triple Gem, and that we wish to lead all beings to their highest enlightenment. Then generate regret and strong determination to not repeat this kind of action again for some finite amount of time. Maybe it's hard not to lie. You know, we lie all the time, and we don't even know it. My kids get me on this one. I got them on this one, now they get me on this one. It's exaggeration is a form of lying. It's deceptive. Sometimes we can lie just by not saying something. And other times we can speak words that are deceptive. Now, recall the virtuous actions of speech. When we've avoided lying, we had the opportunity to deceive somebody, but we were straightforward. We avoided lying. And we had the opportunity to badmouth somebody. In fact, we wanted to. I often catch myself going, now am I getting ready to create some negative karma here? And I go, well, I better shut up, not say anything. I've caught myself many times doing that since I've taken these teachings to heart, or at least trying to. Harsh speech and gossip, the times we've avoided those. So that's virtuous. virtuous actions of speech. The result of these actions will be the opposite of the result of the non-virtuous ones. Rejoice in these actions and dedicate the merit. Now the non-virtuous actions of the mind. Recall actions of covetousness, strongly desiring to have the possessions of others. Think these actions can cause you to be reborn in the realm of hungry ghost, or to always be dissatisfied and fail in ventures, or to live in a very isolated place. So to always be satisfied, so that craving, attachment can never get enough, right? We're never satisfied. Lama Zopa said, the worst suffering in all of samsara is dissatisfaction, because we can never get enough. Even when we have what we want, we're afraid we're going to lose it. When we don't have it, we crave it. When we get it, we're afraid we're going to lose it. And when we get the opposite of it, we really suffer. So attachment, big problem. This craving. Recall actions of malice, hateful thoughts toward others, wanting to harm them, being unhappy with their success. Think these actions can cause you to be reborn in a lower realm and become increasingly hateful, or to find only bad tasting food, but to be increasingly hateful. So we build up the tendency. Our mind's that way. I think I commented about this. 10 or 15, 20 years ago, there was this whole movement in psychology about get it out. If you feel angry, tell the people how you feel, or get your anger out, whatever it is. Somehow that might be helpful. And there may be instances. I'm not saying never. You never say never, but generally speaking, not such a good idea. Builds the people don't want to be around you. It builds up the habit of being angry, and it creates incredible, negative karma. So that people will come back and yell at you, and be angry at you. That boomerang effect. Think these actions can cause you to be reborn in the hell realm and become increasingly hateful. We already said that. Recall actions of wrong views, strongly holding to your own views which are opposite of the truth. The existence, for example, the existence of the law of cause and effect, which we're talking about tonight. That would be considered to be a wrong view. Another wrong view would be, and we talked about this last week, the disbelief or not having any faith in your own potential to develop your body. Your heart and mind. To become, to reach nirvana, to be completely free of suffering. Disbelief, just like saying, there's no way, there's no past or future lifetimes. This is it. That's also considered to be a wrong view. Disbelief or not even giving any serious thought about the teachings on emptiness and the Four Noble Truths and so forth. So those are all considered to be wrong views. Think these actions can cause you to be reborn in an animal realm and to become increasingly ignorant or live in a place where plants do not produce fruit. So generate the 4 powerful remedies to purify any of these non-virtuous actions of mind. Generate the thought of refuge in the triple gem and the wish to lead all beings to their highest enlightenment. Then generate regret and a strong determination not to repeat this kind of action again. Recall virtuous actions of mind when you avoided this greedy, clingy, covetousness, this mind of greed and attachment. Maybe you noticed it arising, but you didn't give in to it. You let it go. So that's an act of virtue. Or malice, when a situation arose where you would ordinarily, have hateful thoughts towards someone, but you restrain yourself. Or holding wrong views, you restrain yourself from saying, "Oh, that is absolutely wrong. There's no way that that's true." It's okay to doubt the teachings of the Buddha and actually to consider to be healthy, to bring a healthy skepticism when you hear the teachings of the Buddha, but also be open. A good scientist takes information and then tries to go out and validate the accuracy of it. Check it out in your own life. Check it out. See if it works. If it works, great. Put it into practice. If it doesn't work, we leave it. It's like that. So rejoice in these actions. So recall your virtuous actions of mind where you avoided covetousness, malice, and holding wrong views. The results of these actions will be the opposite of the results of the non-virtuous actions. Rejoice in these actions and dedicate the merit. Having thought about your previous actions using the 10 non-virtues as a guide, generate the strong thought to avoid such non-virtue in the future and to purify such the non-virtue already created as quickly as possible. Hold the mind single-pointedly on this thought for as long as possible. So here's the thought again. Having thought about your previous actions, using the 10 non-virtues as a guide, right? So 3 of body, killing, stealing, sexual misconduct. 4 of speech, lying, slander, harsh and frivolous speech. 3 of mind, greed, hatred, and ignorance. We try to bring these 10 non-virtues to mind and generate a strong thought to avoid such non-virtue in the future and purify that non-virtue already created as quickly as possible. Hold the mind single-pointedly on this thought for a few moments. And so we think as much as I can, maybe I can't do it even for a minute, but as much as I can, I'm going to avoid these 10 non-virtues for as long as I can. And then we dedicate the merit of this meditation. May this action become the cause of enlightenment so that you can perfectly lead all sentient beings into their enlightened state as quickly as possible. Okay, so that was meditation on the 10 non-virtues. Meditated on the 4 laws of karma last time. Who remembers what they are? The 4. Anybody wasn't here last week or wasn't here last week or new? Most people have been here. But anyway, 4 laws of karma. if you don't get this, the teacher has failed. There's several things. Repetition's good, isn't it? All right, 4 laws of karma. Number 1, karma is definite, right? What does that mean? Please, help me.
Positive seeds lead to positive actions and vice versa.
Positive seeds lead to happiness for me. And negative actions of body, speech, and mind lead to suffering for me down the road. Now, you might go, well, so this is a bit of a harsh one, but I'm just going to say it. Somebody who's a rapist might be having fun while they're raping somebody. You go, well, wait a minute, how does that work? You know, if they're experiencing pleasure, it's not the karma that they're creating. Any time we experience a positive, a happy mind, even if we're doing something negative, like some of these people that, you know, that go in and you know, mass murders and stuff like that, they get a charge out of that. And you go, wow, how could that be positive? No, that's positive karma ripening from the past, giving them that charge. What they're doing now is completely negative. And it's going to cause, it's the ripening of negative karma that they're doing it, and they're creating more negative karma, right? So positive actions always lead to happiness for me, and negative actions always lead to suffering for me. So karma is definite, and it doesn't, you know, it's not a game. It's really, really important because we don't want to suffer. So we need to know. So any action, I think Nagarjuna, he's some, I don't know when he was around, but a long, long time ago, he's an Indian saint. He said that any action, see, this is why it's important to be mindful, because in the moment, we don't know the long-term consequence, right? We can only see in the moment. There's something that happens in the moment you do something, but it's the long-term consequence of an action that we're looking for. We want happiness. The long-term consequence of an action is happiness, and that's what we want to do. So any action guaranteed motivated by non-attachment, non-hatred, and non-ignorance will always lead to happiness. And any action motivated by attachment, hatred, and ignorance will always lead to suffering. So if we need to notice our motivation. It's really important. Karma is definite. Second one, what is it? All right, expandable. I like the word expandable. People say increasing, expandable. Is that right? Expandable, yeah. So it's like one karmic seed, one little tiny karmic seed. You smile at somebody, that you just planted a positive karmic seed. Particularly if you did it if you were sincere, you planted the seed, and that seed will ripen and grow over hours, years, months, lifetimes, and will eventually ripen in what? Happiness. And by the same token, something mean or hateful that we do will always ripen. So you can see, I mean, you take, like I use the example of a little acorn. You plant an acorn, you see this ginormous oak tree, right? All from a little tiny acorn. You go, how in the world did that happen? But that seed was expanding. Karma, our mind works the same way. So we need to take every opportunity we can to plant every chance we get to plant positive seeds and be vigilant when our mind goes off in the wrong direction, to not follow it, to let it go, to come up with some method to let go of that negative mind. Yeah. There are a lot of people here that, well, anyway, we can talk about him later. But, all right. Now, number 3, karma, definite, expandable, can't experience the result without creating the cause. That means without creating the cause. So if we want to get enlightened, if we want to be happy, if we want to be, cheerful and upbeat and have a happy life and have a happy death, by the way. I mean, how many of us, we don't even want to think about death. But when we think about death, don't you want to die with a happy mind? Don't you want to die with, I gave it my best shot. I did a good job. I left the world a better place than it was when I came here. Anyway, we cannot experience a result without creating the cause. So if the result we want is happiness, we have to create the causes for it. Because karma is definite, it's expandable. And by the same token, the things that happen to us that we don't understand, right? Why do bad things happen to nice people? This would be the Buddhist explanation. You cannot experience, no one can experience a result without having created the cause for it. And that seems harsh, and don't take it that way. It's like gravity. It's not personal. It really is not personal. This is just how the universe is, how our minds and the universe is structured. We cannot experience a result without creating the cause, which is another way of saying we're responsible, which is another way of saying is we can never, well, we can, but we're never a victim, because we cannot have experienced the result without having created the cause. Now, when I say am I talking about me and you in this lifetime? Maybe not. Maybe yes, maybe not. It could have been the immediate previous lifetime or 100,000 lifetimes ago. The seed was planted, and then the cooperative causes came together for us to win the lottery, or get thrown in jail, or be killed in a head-on collision, or, all kinds of stuff. So we cannot experience the result without creating the cause. And then last but not least, it's karmic seeds. I'm going to use the Sanskrit word for these karmic seeds just to put it out there. I think it's called bakchaks. Bakchaks. These are karmic seeds. Are never lost. That's why I said 50,000 lifetimes ago, there could have been a karmic seed, or 15 or 10 or whatever, but they're never lost. In other words, we can never take a vacation from mindfulness. We can't take a vacation from paying attention to our mind, because we're constantly creating the causes for our future suffering or happiness. And these seeds are never lost. They will ripen. Eventually they'll ripen. They kind of queue up. The heavier ones are are the ones that are going to ripen sooner than the lighter ones. Say if you killed your parents in your last lifetime, that's probably going to result in something really heavy, negative happening to you in this lifetime, right? So it's interesting. The heaviest karma, this is why I'm always trying to get my kids to buy into this, but they haven't quite gotten it. I said, look, you need to be nice to me. the heaviest karma that we can create is in relationship to our parents. Think of the karmic connection we have to these people. They gave us our body. They gave us a chance, even if they were the biggest jerks in the world, they gave us a chance to play the game of life. Our parents. So our parents and our teachers and of course our children and so on and so forth. So you can imagine that the most important people karmically that we need to have good relationships with are those most powerful, most influential people in our lives. So bakchaks, or karmic seeds, are never lost. Any questions about anything? I'm just throwing it at you tonight, but I want to make it clear. Come on, let's debate. Yeah.
How are people in our lives connected to us karmically? Like, if you're ready to meet a teacher, so you do have a karmic connection with your teachers, and
yeah. I mean, that would be the only explanation, isn't it? I mean, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. You always hear that one. But it takes, we have to create an enormous amount of positive potential to meet. There's different kinds of teachers, right? We want to meet a qualified teacher, somebody who walks the talk. That's why these monastic Geshe and people like that are amazing to have in our, they're so fortunate that we have Geshe Sampa and Geshe Gelek, and then Lama Zopa, and visiting teachers that are really do walk the talk, because their speech is so much more powerful than somebody like me who's just, I'm telling you the words, but I can't live up to them.
I have another question along that line. So people that we have relationships in our past lives, do they reappear in our life like now, but they're like playing different people?
Yeah, absolutely. That's such a great question. Yeah, I mean, for example, when you do the meditation on, let's see, if you're doing the meditation on generating bodhicitta, for example, there's 11-point meditation, different points that you memorize, and the first one is equanimity, right? Because if you're going to have equal compassion for all beings, you've got to, you can't have friend, enemy, and stranger. You've got to have equal regard for everyone. And the next one is seeing your mother, remembering, and actually is seeing that all sentient beings have been your mother. Okay? So in every lifetime, I've had to have a mother, right? And so again, this is way outside our normal way of thinking. But in every lifetime, we had to have a mother. And we use that relationship because generally that's the closest relationship that human beings have with another human being, is the mother-child relationship, okay? So in every lifetime, we've had a mother. Every sentient being's been our mother. Our mother of this lifetime has been our mother countless lifetimes before, and will again be our mother in future lifetimes, and likewise we'll be her mother. Like that. So yeah, we've all been in every conceivable relationship with each other. We look around the room like we're all strangers. Hey Mom.
So
Hey
does
Pop.
Does that mean that I have been Geshe Sangpo's mother and Geshe Gelek's mother?
Well, that's what it would imply.
Oh, well, yes, I do feel like Geshe Sangpo is my son.
Well, good. I'll tell you, Lama Yeshe used to walk around. He called everybody dear. It was the weirdest thing. But he just said, hey, dear. hey, dear, like family, like family. He called everybody dear, and projecting that label on people, had some effect on his mind. See, I really wanted to get into some juicy stuff tonight, but I'm going to have to hit the high points here. So y'all ready for a race through emptiness? Who remembers what emptiness means?
Non-self.
Pardon?
Non-self.
No self, okay. What does that mean, though? What does no self mean? Because you do exist.
Right. The perception that you have of your own personality.
The perception you have of
The
what?
perception that you have of yourself, the way you see yourself, is just a projection. It doesn't really exist.
So, but you do exist.
Right.
So, how can you say you don't exist when I'm sitting here looking at you and you tell me you do exist, but you're telling me you don't exist?
It is the ideas that we have of who we are. I mean, we are, sister and brother and mother and friend and
Yeah.
teacher and all that. But
Yeah.
that's all relative to our situation at the very moment.
I'm kind of messing with you a little bit, but you're right. You're right about that. We do have a projection of ourself that is a valid self. Okay, there's a body and a mind, and independence upon that combination of body and mind. We call them the aggregates, some weird technical term, but it just is a collection of the body and mind, and on that we label self. And that's all there is. That's all there is. But what do? Ignorance, which, primordial ignorance, projects a false sense of self that's big, that's concrete, that's real, me, I. And if you say something that is directed at me, and of course I'm listening, this false sense of self is the one that's interpreting everything, I get angry. Or if I see something I want, I cling and I get attached to it and so forth. So there's a self. Now there's another so all right. So that's good. That's a good start. So emptiness is kind of a weird word. And I wanted to tie in, again, I've talked in each class about how this ties in a little bit with karma. I want to touch on a few points here in my notes. So we talked about karma. You can see it in this life. Really powerful karma can ripen in this life. It can ripen in the next life. It can ripen in future lives. These bakchaks, or karmic seeds. And then this, when the karma for this life runs out, what do we call that? Death. And in the next life, we won't have any recollection of this life. We have no idea where we're going to end up. We have no idea where this mind is going to project us. We have no idea. So I want to talk a little bit about how this how karma gets created. So when we do a deed, let's say we yell at someone, okay? We see ourselves yelling at someone, okay? We see ourselves doing it. And our motivation is negative, okay? In this case, it's negative. You could yell at somebody out of compassion, couldn't you? Like you saw somebody running, a child running in the street, and you didn't want him to get killed. You could yell, and it might look like you're mean and angry, but no, you're trying to help them. So in this case, we see ourselves motivated by a negative mind state, yelling at somebody. And this, it's a complete action, and that plants a bakchak, okay? All right, that's a complete deed. So you see yourself doing it, and that plants that little bakchak on the mind stream. And then, of course, this bakchak is constantly in a state of change. It's not static. It's not like a golf ball or something that's static. It's in a constant state of change. The key thing about the bakchak is our motivation. Now, when we talk about emptiness, I'm backing up here a little bit. When we talk about emptiness, well, let me go back to this. This is a weird example, but I'm going to give it to you anyway. It's cool. So, there are let's say there are 6 realms of samsara, right? We talk about the human realm, we talk about the hungry ghost realm, we were talking about there was chief kind of motivation there is craving, and then we can talk about like a deva, a god realm. So there's the hungry ghost, the humans, and then the God realm. And so this is actually in the scripture. So they have a glass of water, and the human sees what? Has the karma to see it as water. The hungry ghost has the karma to see it as pus and blood. They have completely different karma. Their karmic, there's something here, there's data out here, but their karma forces them to see it as pus and blood. And a deva, someone in the God realm, has the karma to see it as amrita, this nectar of the gods. But it's the same thing. And they're all right. They all are having a valid perception based on their karmic projection. They're all having a valid perception. Remember we talked about this or something like this. Yeah, the dog. You see this, it looks like it's a marker, right? Now you didn't even know it was a marker until it was a point in your life when your parents told you it was a marker, right? There was a point when one day you didn't know it was a marker and the next day you did, and then you remembered it. The karma, your mind went, oh, there's a marker. You projected marker on this collection of parts, right? Same thing. So dog sees it, and am I valid? Is that accurate? This is a marker, right? But it's a projection of a marker, and we believe it. Now, in reality, what we think is that the marker actually is over here. We do not see that we project marker and label it marker. We think marker is real and it exists from its own side. You get what I'm saying? Okay? The dog sees this thing. The dog thinks it's something to chew. Is it like a chew toy? Is the dog right? The dog is having a valid perception. The dog is having a valid perception. It is a chew toy. Now, how can it be a marker and a chew toy at the same time? We're both having valid perceptions. Somebody else could see something completely different. Everybody's having their own perception of reality. Where's it coming from? Where are these perceptions coming from? There's data out there. There's data out there. No doubt about it. But it's coming from our mind. It's like, one way to think of it is it's all empty. Like somebody, your boss tomorrow, when you go in tomorrow and your boss yells at you, could that happen to anybody here? Yeah. Your boss yells at you. Okay? So the first thing if you want to be skillful about it, you go, he's empty. He's empty. There's nobody out there that exists independent of my mind labeling it. He's a karmic projection. He is just a karmic projection. Where did that karma come from? From me yelling at somebody, at him, either in this lifetime or some former lifetime. Okay? So the frames of my projector are karma. And if I want to see somebody yelling at me, how do I create that frame? By getting angry and yelling at other people or that person. If I want to have the frames of my mind, of my projector, showing me as being, peaceful and joyful and happy and in paradise. I mean, who doesn't want to be there? Who doesn't want to have that kind of life? Where do those frames come from? Where do those bakchaks come from that ripen? They're just karmic seeds that are ripening, just like flowers. Where do the flowers, the karmic bakchaks that ripen, that cause us, and literally they force us to see ourselves as in the case of our boss yelling at us, and he yells at us, and you get angry, your karma is forcing you to get angry. You cannot say, you could all day long, you could say, oh, he's just being nice. No. Your karma is forcing you to see him as being angry. In the same way that when we do kind things and we behave and we plant positive karmic seeds, our karma will force us to see ourselves as happy and peaceful and our lives workable. You cannot talk yourself out of it. If you could say, for example, oh, I've got control over my mind, but if somebody's drilling your third molar and they hit the nerve, and you go, oh, this is blissful. You're going, this sucks. You're going, this is terrible. This hurts. This is painful. That is valid. And it's empty. It's our karma ripening that's causing us to have every one of our experiences. Everything that we experience is the fruit of past karma, and our reaction to it is creating more karma. And it's not predestination. It's not predestination. And so only the Buddha really understood all the intricacies. So we really have to rely on the text and things like that. But again, getting back to the point that I was making, I'm going to jump because we're almost done. And I'm going to come back to this next week because this is, I think, this is the biggest take-home of the whole class, is how we can understand karma in terms of emptiness. And it's as if, and I'm going to say it again in a different way, it's as if there's a blank screen in our lives. And I'm talking about all of our senses, the sounds that we hear, the sights that we see, the tastes that we experience, the tactile, the mental consciousness, auditory, everything. All of our consciousnesses are like a blank screen. And it's the karma ripening that's forcing us to have an experience of being alive. Being a man, being a woman, looking this way, looking that way, having this experience, having that experience. And we cannot change it in the moment that is happening. But we can change it in the future. We do have choice. We do have choice about how we can shape our lives in the future by living in accordance with the laws of karma. We don't have to, to be victims of our past bad choices, basically. I just want to read this because I just think it's so cool, but I don't know if I'll be able to make any sense out of it. This was the other thing too, was really important is if you get a chance to take vows. There are different vows that you can take. There's the pratimoksha vows, which are the vows of individual liberation, which, those are the 5 lay vows that the lamas can give, and there's different versions of the pratimoksha vows. Then there's the bodhisattva vows, which I think there's a 36 root and 18 root and 43 secondary vows, but they have a different flavor. It's like the root vows are like not avoid killing and stealing, and like the bodhisattva vows are like not praising yourself and bad mouth. Well, not praising yourself basically, but being taking care of others. It's much more consistent with the bodhisattva worldview. And then there's the tantric vows. So there's the 3 levels of vows, but in the beginning, we're not that advanced. So if we can take vows, vows can help us protect ourselves until we get smarter. Until we can control our minds better. Vows are like protection. I used to use example of vows as being like, if you got a little seedling and you got a lot of deer in your yard, and you put a little fence around that seedling, it has a chance to grow before the deers eat it. In the same way, we're like that seedling, and the vows can protect us from our egocentric, reactions that can get us into trouble. So, all right. At the moment, I got two more points, and then I'll wrap it up. At the moment someone yells at you, remember emptiness. Remember emptiness. He's empty. She's empty. Okay? Remember emptiness. The thought of emptiness triggers, where did he come from? Right? Where did he come from? He came from my past bad karma. He is a karmic projection. He's my karmic projection. This is my karmic projection of this person yelling at me. Now, if I yell back at him, what do I get back? Keeps the circle going. That's called samsara. Then next time I yell back at him, then he yells at me, then I yell back at him, and he yells at me, and so on and so forth, right? So, karma is ripening in our mind, unifying the images into a bad person, forcing us to see it that way. Where did that bakchak come from? It came from our past actions. It becomes more and more a natural reaction. If I get angry back, I have to see him again. I get to see him again. Now here's the one you've been waiting for. All right. Maybe not. He's empty. He's empty. He's empty. Oh yeah, it comes from my side, not him. Then don't respond. Don't respond. So there's, hold on a minute. Where is it? Okay, well, just think about it this way. We have, there are a lot of people that come to Kadampa Center and that dislike this man whose last name starts with a T and ends with a P, right? And I would say hate him. I mean, wouldn't have strong aversion toward him, right? Like, I really, really dislike him. So, what do we just, without having any compassion for this person, without having any empathy, without trying to work with our own negativity toward him, what are we creating? That causes us to see him again. Yeah, if you don't want to see him again, meditate on compassion and loving kindness and patience. If you want to see him again, just be angry and throw spears of hatred toward him. And lo and behold, he'll be right back in less than a year. You see what I'm saying? Karma works that way. Karma works that way. So, in a real way, whatever we want, we have to give away. If we want prosperity, we have to be generous. If we want people to treat each other kindly, we have to be kind. Whatever we want, we have to give it away first. So it's just practical, so practical. And it's how our world is organized, it's how things work. And so we have to understand it, because everything's empty. Everything's empty. My mind is projecting my reality. The projector, the frames of the projector are bakchaks planted in the past that are ripening, forcing me to have the experience of my life, whatever it looks like now. And the future depends on the choices I make now. So our bakchaks are forcing us to have the life that we have now. But the future is in our hands. We can change it we can shape the future by making good choices now, by living with, compassion and loving kindness and patience and so forth. All the things that we know are true, and living in accordance with the laws of karma. Hallelujah. I was a little bit like the evangelical Buddhist around here. I do get carried away sometimes, but we'll get back to this next time. Plus, we'll go back over some other stuff. But let's just take a moment, and a lot of seeds, a lot of things. I hope helpful things have been planted in our mind. So let's just take a moment and digest it. That, our karma is the creator of our experience. It causes us to project onto data that's out there. It forces us to project onto data our interpretation based on our past actions, our past choices. And if we want a better life, we have to choose now to behave in a more compassionate, generous, kind way. Not because, it's one of those thou shalt, it's in our best interest, as the Dalai Lama says. It's enlightened self-interest to be kind to others, to be generous, to be patient, to be just to be a good person. So whatever positive potential we want to, our merit, we want to share that with universal living beings, that they may quickly achieve their own supreme state of enlightenment as quickly as possible. Thank you. Ran over a little bit. I keep wanting to do some more video stuff. Next week we'll do some because I want to fill in the gaps. But thank you for setting this up. And thank you for showing up. Yeah. By the way, a practice that you can do this week is purification practice, and I encourage you to do it. If you're brave enough to memorize the 100-syllable mantra, go for it. If you can't remember it, you can just remember Om Vajrasattva Hum. Just a couple of words. Om Vajrasattva Hum.
And that handout is just outside the doors.